comic character. But he's got worldwide influences, but mostly it's the Horatio Alger story from Rags to Riches, if you know the origin of Batman. Kid gets killed through the dint of his hard work and the sweat of his brow. He basically turns himself into a superhero. That's a very kind of all-American Horatio Alger Rags to Riches story. But when you get into the origin of Batman itself as a comic creation, you start to see that Batman has worldwide influences. If you look in the upper left corner, Bob Kane's original sketch, he was using Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine as a way of getting across the idea that if you're going to have a flying man named Batman, you want his wings to act more like the wings of a bat, not the wings of a bird. And you can see from Leonardo da Vinci's original designs that this is where one of Bob Kane's influences came from. So in addition to the high art influence of Batman, you have what you would call the low art, the popular culture American influences like Zorro that came into the creation of Batman. But in many ways, Batman has worldwide popularity. He is the everyman. There is a certain aspect of Batman that tells us that we can be superheroes if we work hard enough. And that's why there's a worldwide love of anything and everything Batman related, which is why one of the images for The Dark Knight Rises doesn't even use Batman, just the bat symbol in the sky. Now when Bob Kane, original name Khan, the artist who co-created Batman with his writer partner Bill Finger, nowhere is this worldwide influence of the creation of Batman more evident than in the character you can see dimly there, the Joker. In this story of the Joker, you'll get all of the worldwide influences of Batman. If we look at the very first page of the Joker in the very first Batman comic, which was Batman #1, which appeared in 1940. Just a quick little digression, Batman first appeared a year earlier in a comic called Detective Comics, and then in the space of that year, he proved so popular that he got his own comic book. Now in the back of issue 1, there was an actual autobiographical feature about Bob Kane, and this started the idea that he created the characters alone. What a lot of people didn't realize is in that year between Batman's creation in '39 and Batman #1, he had to turn out so much Batman material, he hires a young assistant named Jerry Robinson to help him draw Batman. Jerry Robinson claimed he created the Joker based on the rogue villains of Dick Tracy, the popular comic strip character who appeared in the 1930s. And if you look at Dick Tracy's Rogues Gallery, the one that resembles the Joker most is Flat Top. But if you look at the year of his creation, 1944, that comes 4 years after Batman #1 story, which is this story. The key to the creation, from Jerry Robinson's point of view, is in the playing cards that you can see in Joker's hand in the first story. Jerry Robinson claimed that he got the idea for the Joker from the playing card, which you can see here. And then, if you look at the very first Batman story, in the upper right corner, you can see where that card was actually used in the story. Now, the idea of the Joker with this sort of tri-cornered hat, whatever you would call that type of Joker's hat, you can see in the history of the playing cards that there was that kind of look that Jerry Robinson used to base his Joker on. And his pencil drawing that he claims was the first time the Joker was created resembles that playing card. Now, here's the only problem. Jerry Robinson, till the day he died, and in his autobiography, you can see how closely associated he is with the Joker. As he got older, he still maintained he and not Bob Kane created the Joker. Now, if you look at that artwork in the background, you can see that that was the color version of a sketch that he did in the late 1990s. And that was based on, this is the original art of one of his most famous Joker images from the 1940s. And there it is in color. Here's another classic Joker image. So you can see that Jerry Robinson was always connected to the Joker. And some of the greatest Batman images had to do with the Joker and those playing cards. And you can see them in these two spreads here. Now if we go back to that Batman #1 story and we look at that panel, Bob Kane disagrees with Jerry Robinson. He said he created the Joker, not from Jerry Robinson's playing card, because he said when Jerry Robinson came to myself and Bill Finger, the writer, we already had the Joker created. And we based it on the film we're going to watch in a couple minutes, The Man Who Laughs. And here's the original poster for The Man Who Laughs. This was a story based on a novel by the famous Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo was a French poet, playwright. You might know him better from the famous Les Miserables. And if you've ever seen the classic Hunchback of Notre Dame, these were the stories of Victor Hugo. And one of his stories, The Man Who Laughs, deals with a man, these are the lobby cards, the posters, deals with a man who's horribly disfigured. And I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but you can see in these images where they got the various posters from. And Conrad Veidt was the actor who played, he was a well-known silent film actor, and he said the makeup was really difficult to put on. It was kept in by hooks, that he's a disfigured character and he has to go through his life wearing that hideous grin. And you can see where Bob Kane might have gotten that influence to do the Joker. This is the last panel of that story. Now, Bob Kane claims he created the Joker. Jerry Robinson created the Joker. The third character in this sort of Batman Joker who created what story is the writer Bill Finger. Unfortunately, there's very few photographs of Bill Finger extant. Here's one image, very faint, that you can see. This is surrounded by all the characters and concepts Bill Finger created in comics, not just for Batman. He's really a legend that nobody knows about. And in a classic American success/tragedy story, he got screwed out of the creation of Batman with Bob Kane taking all the credit. He dies penniless in 1974, and even though he's really the co-creator of Batman. Recently, Mark Tyler Nobleman, an author who's done a book about the Superman creators, is about to publish a book about Bill Finger. And one of the ways that you can see why Bill Finger's claim to creating the Joker is accurate, because without Bill Finger, there would be no Batman as we know him. Because if you look at when Batman was first created, I ended up doing a story for a trade magazine showing all the different influences to create Bob Kane's first sketch. And without Bill Finger coming up with suggestions for all these things, I set out to do a sketch based on what would Batman look like without Bill Finger. As I was doing my research, this is Flash Gordon and Alex Raymond, and if you look at that pose, that's where Bob Kane got the first pose for Batman. This is an illustration I did. This is what Batman might have looked like had Bill Finger not made all the suggestions to Bob Kane to turn Batman into the character we know. I created a cover of a trade magazine where I put in all the various influences, the Shadow, the Flash Gordon image, Zorro, the Leonardo da Vinci thing. Even in the upper right corner, the little bat. Bill Finger went to the dictionary and said, Bob, Batman shouldn't just have a domino mask like the Phantom. And he pulled the dictionary and he said, look up a bat. Give Batman the cowl. And this was the cover of the trade magazine Alter Ego. Right before that came out, this is the now defunct Words and Pictures Museum in Northampton, Massachusetts, run by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guys. And I did a series of panels on the graphic history of Batman for that museum. And in those panels, I discussed some of these creative things. And as you go through the timeline, you can see how I wound up showing how, in my belief, it was Jerry Robinson who created the Joker. But then there's a fourth element to the creation of the Joker, in addition to The Man Who Laughs and all the things I talked about before. This is a shot of Coney Island steeplechase, one of the classic amusement parks in Brooklyn that got knocked down in 1964. in the steeplechase, there was this giant smiling character. And who do you think that character looks like? This came out in 1896. And here's another, what do you call it, a token to get into the amusement park. And there's another picture of this character. And if we look up close, I mean, who does that resemble? Could it be that that was an influence on The Man Who Laughs? Because within comics, you can see the influence in the works of artists like Alex Ross. Comic artists today are taking that Man Who Laughs character, and you can really see it in Alex Ross's images of the Joker. You can see where the Man Who Laughs comes from. You can see how maybe the influence might have been there. This was one of the early makeup tests versus you can see it in The Joker by Brian Bolland. This was from the famous graphic novel The Killing Joke. You can see the influence of The Man Who Laughs. Even DC Comics is doing Joker stories that are paying direct homage to the film we're about to see. But it's really, when you talk about the Joker, you keep coming back to this character, and you can see it in all iterations of the Joker. You can see this dynamic icon of the Man Who Laughs literally in every single Joker, no matter how far back you go to. You can see the Man Who Laughs. So ladies and gentlemen, get ready for really the first showing in the New York metropolitan area that I can remember of The Man Who Laughs, 1928, silent film and the origin of the Joker. Thank you.